Hi friends, this is your pal Scott, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about August 21st, 2025, and I'm trying to get the right name for this event. So if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear it. So one of the things is that I've already called it is the Daggerheart Down event. And I don't think that's the best name, and the reason why is it's not really a big deal that Daggerheart got beat on. It's not as big a deal that Daggerheart got beat on that day as much as Dungeons and Dragons won in a way that is historic. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons history present. So I'm really focused on this. I love Dungeons and Dragons, and there's lots of people who will tell you how to make your ranger build better. There's lots of people who give you their recap for their, for their game this week, and all those things are useful. And it's just not, but there's tons of it, right? And there's actually maybe more of it than's needed, right? But what I really like is I like people talking about, hey, a historic event on Dungeons and Dragons just happened, and this is going to have impact for 2 decades. And that's what I'm saying right now. I think the Daggerheart Down event is absolutely massive. It is such a big deal, and I want to dig into it, right? So let's dig into it. All right. So rather than call it the Daggerheart Down Day, I think what might be here's two suggestions: the D&D Victory Day or the D&D D-Day, right? The D&D D-Day, it captures all of it, D&D and Daggerheart, right? So this is, and today what I want to talk about is what happened on this day and what that day really set into TTRPG culture just permanently. Actually, no, that's not true. For 20 years, I think Dungeons and Dragons just got safety for 20 years, and I want to talk about it. So let's dig into it. Okay, here we go. All right, what happened? Let's talk about what happened. All right, so August 21st, 2025, Critical Role comes in and they say, hey, everybody, you've been waiting for months, right? And I think it was about 8 months that people waited for this decision. And Critical Role was extremely aware that people wanted to know if Campaign 4 was going to run on Dungeons and Dragons or whether it was going to run on Daggerheart. And the reason why is they were constantly asked. Every single member was asked all the time, right? And it was a big deal, right? And they were sensitive about it. And I think the reason why they were sensitive about it is I think they knew the tabletop role-playing game community desperately wanted a D&D killer to manifest. And there were 3 candidates. There was Tales of the Valiant. That thing disappeared the moment. I actually think Tales of the Valiant actually failed the moment they named it Tales of the Valiant, right? It was just such a terrible name. Everybody was like, I'll just assume that the rest of this game is not useful. And I think people did. It just dropped off the map immediately. Matt Colville's Draw Steel definitely could have mattered, but Daggerheart came out first, and it sucked out all the oxygen from the raid. There was nothing left. There was no hype left for Draw Steel, and I think you're seeing that right now. Draw Steel is in its release, air quotes. It's this terrible new pattern that companies do where they're like, hey, you can buy it digital, but you can't buy it physical. It's terrible. It's a terrible new pattern. Almost every OSR and indie company uses it. D&D does actually not use it. Not to the extent that others do. They do weeks or months. Like Cosmere and Draw Steel have weeks or months between the digital release and the physical release, which I think is just a terrible idea for 55 different reasons. It's horrible. I've been caught in this pinch. You end up buying both, and I think companies know that you're going to buy both because they can use the FOMO to get you to buy the digital. And then you're like, oh, I forgot, digital sucks. Like, let me get the real book. And then, and then you end up buying both. And companies realize this, and it's horrible. It is just horrible. So basically, and I will say, yeah, I did actually, yeah. All right, well, let's keep going here. All right, so August 21st, 2025, Critical Role comes out, and they're like, okay, we're announcing it. It's Dungeons and Dragons over D&D, or it's Dungeons and Dragons over Daggerheart. And the whole world was like, wait, what? What did you just say? Wait, you took 2 years. You announced your tabletop role-playing game in the D&D killer window, right? You then spent 2 years building it. Spencer Stark built it extremely well, strong enough to compete with Dungeons & Dragons, both in lore and in rules, right? And then you had absolute success with the release. It blew off the shelves everywhere. You have every single clue that you need that this is the D&D killer now. Like, we don't need to wait for it. It is here, right? And Critical Role was like, no. And the entire tabletop role-playing game community was like, that's it. It's over, right? And it is, right? Because if you're celebrities, if you're millionaires, if you took 2 years to build your game, if your game receives absolute, widespread, ubiquitous acceptance, you have an excited community, you can't even meet demand, and you're like, no, we're going to stay with Dungeons & Dragons. It means everyone else is cooked. It means that no one is going to be able to do this for 20 years, right? If Critical Role couldn't do it, they had millions of dollars in the bank, each one of them, to deal with the transition period, right? Hey, I'm going to be poor. Am I going to be able to make my payments? These guys have millions in the bank. Professor Dungeon Master recently presented numbers that he was saying he believes Critical Role's draw was $30 to $50 million a year for the last 5 years at least, right? So that's a ton of money. Even split 8 ways, that's millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? And so and they did everything right until the very end. And I believe the reason that they did this, and I think this is really important to understand, is they were able to get the excited community. They were able to build the game. They were able to build the game well. They were able to do every single thing except print and distribute. And I think once they got there, they were like, first of all, if we're digital only, we're not real, because D&D is dropping books on the shelves every 3 months, and not just at FLGSs, everywhere, right? So people will laugh at us. And they were right. If you can't print and distribute, you're done. You're not. No one's going to take you seriously, right? And I think that was the part they realized. They were like, we can't print and distribute. We're years away from being able to build the relationships and win over the printers, and we have to do this in a period where print is dying for most media. By the way, print is not dying for sacred texts, comic books, and tabletop role-playing games. I think they're literally the last 3 industries where print is just fine, right? Actually, print is thriving, right? So this was okay. So let me explain what this really means, okay? What this means, in my humble opinion, is that Dungeons & Dragons has won the hardest it will ever win, for the next 20 years. And let's get all the way there. So what does this fully mean? All right, here's what this means. It's like car standardization. In America, if you buy a car, it will have a round steering wheel, okay? And it will have a gas pedal on the right, and just a few inches away, 4 inches away, it will have a brake pedal on the left, okay? And no car in America sold breaks this pattern. It doesn't matter what you are selling. It doesn't matter what kind of car you have. It's a circular steering wheel, gas pedal on the floor, 4 inches to the left of that, brake pedal, period. And the reason why is that pattern is so ubiquitous that if you break it, it's dangerous. Your car will not even be commercially considered, right? You can't sell a car that you could tell people, hey, you have to learn a new way to drive to even function this thing. They're like, that's fine, I'll go buy a regular car, right? And I think what this means is that custom rules are finished. Basically, tabletop role-playing games I think are going to go to a period where where Dungeons and Dragons is now the steering wheel, brake, the steering wheel, gas pedal, and brake. It is the standard for the entire industry. And we had already really seen this with almost every company that had their own system was then the pattern, it was like a drum beat. The rhythm was set. You brought out your year zero, right? Like, I think that's Modiphius's system. Or your 2D, theirs was like a 2D20 system. And they're like, oh, we'll print this our own, quirky, great little system. And then we'll just reprint the entire game in Dungeons and Dragons standardized rule set. And I think the D&D D-Day, August 21st, 2025, when Critical Role millionaire celebrities said we cannot compete with Dungeons and Dragons with the game we just built, that was widely accepted, enthusiastically accepted, blew off the shelves, still can't compete. That tells the entire industry you are cooked. The industry is Dungeons and Dragons, which is frankly what I've been saying for a while, right? Like, I've been saying there really isn't a tabletop role-playing game industry. There's D&D, and there's people who gesture at being D&D. And at this point, that is only going to compound. I really believe that the D&D D-Day, August 21st, 2025, when Critical Role said, with a blown off the shelves, massively popular tabletop role-playing game that is strong in lore and strong in rules, we surrender. We're not going to do it. We're not going to give the main show to our own game. We're going to go right back to D&D, where we know we can make millions and millions and millions more. There's no way we're going to risk our millions over competition. So I think that's it. And I think Dungeons and Dragons now is the round steering wheel, gas pedal, brake, period. That's it. There's just it's done. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments, send your traffic. Please consider subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.